Welcome to show number 225 of the Arc Junkies Podcast. I hope you all had a great weekend. I know I did. Friday, right after work, I went in and sanded down all the joints on the drywall in the new studio and got everything prepped for paint. I'm getting super close to being finished with this thing, and man, I cannot wait to move in. This has been a much slower process than I anticipated originally, but like everything else in life, it doesn't happen overnight. Summer is just around the corner, and things are heating up down here in Florida at a rapid pace. So having an air-conditioned space to do the show recordings, all the editing, the logistics, and everything else that goes into the show is just going to be so worth it all, with everything that I've put into this. And I cannot wait until I can walk in the door, hit the lights on, sit down in the chair, and just record an episode. It's going to be freaking epic, and I just can't wait. Aside from prepping the studio, I had an overall great weekend. Saturday, I attended the Drew Estates Barn Smokers event, which was an awesome time. If you're into cigars, I highly recommend checking that event out when it comes to your area. They've got them up in Connecticut. There's one in Kentucky, and then one right here in Central Florida. So it was really nice having an event super close to the house. So I can just, hop in the car, get there within 10, 15 minutes, and then, get back home that evening. It made for a super awesome event. And I've been trying to go for the past 3 years now. And last year it was canceled and, due to the coronavirus. And then the year before that, I had a scheduling conflict, so that wasn't possible to attend. But this year I was able to make it happen. And overall, it was worth the wait. And I'm definitely going back next year. I also got to spend some time with the wife. We went out to dinner Saturday evening at a really cool, nice restaurant. And then went back to the same restaurant on Sunday morning for brunch and a couple of Bloody Marys. And, that's something I've never been able to do before, or something I've never done before, but I need to start scheduling some time for Sunday brunch in the near future. It was a really cool experience. If you haven't done a Sunday brunch with the wife, husband, significant other, highly recommend it. It's an awesome time. Quick event announcement. I'm going to be up at Stephanie Hoffman's new school this Friday up in Forked River, New Jersey for her grand opening of the Underground Metalworks shop. So if you're in the area, stop by and check that out. Well, that pretty much sums up what's going on in my world. Let's go ahead and talk about today's episode. This week's guest is Jason Sasaki. He's an Army veteran who served as a nuclear, biological, and chemical specialist, also known as NBC, a job in the military that is definitely, I would not want that, but it's an absolute necessity. While I was in Kuwait, I was actually assigned as part of an NBC decon team and washdown group, just in case we got hit with NBC weapons. Luckily, that never happened, so didn't have to worry about it, but at least I had the training. In this episode, we talk about Jason's transition from military service, his career in the field, and how he got into welding education. We'll get right into it right after a quick word from the supporters of the show. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies Podcast is brought to you by Fronius USA. Fronius is the innovation leader in arc welding. This year, Fronius is releasing the new multi-process iWave. This machine offers full MIG, MAG, TIG, and stick capabilities, allowing users to experience maximum flexibility and upgradability. Fronius, now a global company, started as a family-owned business over 75 years ago. This year marks their 20th anniversary for Fronius USA. Celebrations of giveaways will be announced. Watch the Fronius USA Facebook and Instagram pages for your chance to participate. Fronius USA is excited to share its new promotion with listeners of the Arc Junkies Podcast. Starting April 15th through June 30th, you can order a Transsteel 2200 Compact and get a second MIG torch setup absolutely free. That's a $500 value. The Transsteel 2200 is a compact 3-in-1 solution for MIG, MAG, TIG, and stick capabilities. The 2200 is easy to use, reliable, and has that intelligent Fronius arc. Set up your free torch as a quick changeover or keep it as a spare. The choice is yours. This promotion is only valid in the USA. We're also brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. I'm sure you've heard all about their great rods and wires, or perhaps heard the episode with Pat Adams a while back. Rockmount is growing, and right now, they're looking for new reps all across the country. If you're interested in building a career helping maintenance welders solve problems with the best materials around, then reach out to @Rockmount Welding on Instagram or via their website contact form. Get first-rate technical training and sell the Rolls-Royce of welding rods with Rockmount Research and Alloys. For more information on this great opportunity, you can send an email to my buddy Mark Wilson, wilsonm@rockmountwelding.com. Tell him Jason from the Arc Junkies sent you. We're also brought to you by Lincoln Electric, the welding experts. Want to save some money when you buy genuine Lincoln Electric products? Of course you do. Right now, listeners of the Arc Junkies podcast can save up to 10% on Lincoln Electric welding machines, engine drives, rod ovens, and portable fume extractors when you go to store.lincolnelectric.com and use code word ARCJunkies at checkout. And if that's not enough, you can save 20% on all gear, consumables, and accessories when you use Arc Junkies 20 at checkout. Now's a great time to save on all your PPE, rods, wires, tools, and consumables with Lincoln Electric when you shop store.lincolnelectric.com. To make it even easier for you to shop these awesome deals, I'll go ahead and put a link in the show notes. Lincoln Electric, the welding experts. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machines, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies Podcast, helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is Sensei Saki, Jason Sasaki. How you doing, bud?
Doing blessed. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, man. It's been a while. We haven't had a chance to catch up. I know you've been pretty busy and stuff. We got a chance to meet up there at the Outlaw Studio down there in Houston, Texas a while back.
It was outstanding.
But we've both been kind of pretty damn busy since then.
Yeah, swamped. yeah.
When I got to chatting with you there at Outlaw, we had a chance to catch up, and you know I learned that you're also a fellow veteran. So thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for your service. Yeah.
What was your MOS? You were in the Army, correct?
Yes, I was Army. I was a nuclear biological chemical. Also stands for nobody cares. And
NBC.
So, I was a chemical soldier. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Joined out in the late '90s and got out in 2000. You know, while I was in there, I was just on active duty. I couldn't pursue anything. You know, the military was life. I just knew right off the bat that it really wasn't a career thing for me. You know.
How long did you do?
So. I did 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, the lowest enlistment that we could do at the time. So.
Right. So did you go in for NBC, or like that's the MOS you picked, or you got selected for NBC going in?
No, so I scored a 92 on my ASVAB.
Which
so
is
when
pretty high for the folks following along at home.
It was pretty high. When I went to MEPS, the recruiter there, he's like, well, you can be anything except for a linguist. And I was like, well, that's good because I don't care about learning another language at this time. And he said, well, here's a list. I was looking through and it said nuclear biological chemical. And I was like, well, what is this? And he said, have you seen the movie The Rock? And I said, shit, yes, with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. Yeah, I've seen that. And he's like, you can do that for the Army. I will sign me up for that right there with the rockets and stuff. He's like, just like that. I never saw a VX rocket. I saw a lot of gas masks.
Yeah,
you know?
A lot of gas masks, a lot of time in a friggin' gas chamber.
Yeah, that was the cool part, dude. It's chambers. So, but,
that's what I was going to say, because like when we had to go through, and I'm assuming it's the same way in the Army, but like in the Marines, we had to go through. You got to go through the gas chamber every year. You got to do a fit check and all that stuff every single year. But like the NBC guys, they were a bunch of assholes. I mean, they could be, depending on how much CS gas they're popping off, like depending on what kind of mood that guy's in. But I remember we went through in basic training, and it was horrible, dude. I mean, it was just nasty. But I remember like we went into the fleet, and it looked like something out of a Breaking Bad episode, because you walk into the room, you got your gas mask on, and there's some dude with like a Bunsen burner and like, a dustpan, and he's got this, it looks like he's like cooking up crystal meth or something right there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got all the smoke pouring out, but it's really cool watching how other people react, because it's not as bad in the fleet as it is in boot camp. Boot camp is freaking horrible.
They're trying to kill you.
Yeah, but the fleet wasn't too bad. Like I said, depending on what kind of mood the NCO that was running it that day was, because sometimes they pour it on a little bit heavy, sometimes not so much. So, I mean, did you kind of pick on some of the guys that were coming through?
So yeah, actually I got my my commander, him and First Sergeant were the last ones to come through, and First Sergeant was right behind company commander, and Captain Kirshner comes up and he's like, doing good, Sasaki. And I said, and he started to walk. I was like, whoa, sir, if you want to go at my station, you're going to need to take off your mask. And he looked at me, are you serious? Well, yes, sir, I'm serious. You're going to need to take off that mask and go ahead and say second platoon's motto for me. And he chimed it off real quick, and then the First Sergeant came, and I didn't want to mess with First Sergeant, so I just let it go on by. I knew better. So, but yeah, that's about my my best experience in the CS chamber, was getting to rock down on the old captain real quick.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So did you I'm assuming you guys had to go through like wash down procedures and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I was during basic and AIT. Well, during AIT, we did all the decon stuff. Whenever I went to Fort Hood, I was put into a mechanized smoke unit. We blew smoke for First Cav and Fourth Infantry Division, which is pretty high speed. But that was probably the most fun was being out in the field. I loved going in the field. It was like camping with cool trucks, you know. Now my back is suffering from the riding in the back of a 113
Yep.
forever. But other than that, I really enjoyed my time in the military. I made a lot of really good friends, but it just chemical soldier was not what I wanted to do. And the chemical corps is the smallest corps in the military, so they wouldn't let me reclass into anything. At that time, they wouldn't even let me go to airborne because they had no slots for chemical soldiers. And it was just I kept inputting 4187s to do something else, and I just kept on getting denied. So I got orders to go to Korea or to reenlist and go to Korea, and I was like, well, no, I think I'm just going to go ahead and get out. And as soon as I got out, one of my buddies was having a recruiter come from a school in Oklahoma. They brought some aluminum cans welded together. And I was like, oh my God, if you can weld aluminum cans together, I mean, this school teach you to do something like that. That would be something pretty cool. So that's kind of what led me out of the military into welding.
Did you end up going to school for it?
Yeah, I ended up going to school. Back then, schools did not accept the GI Bill as far as trades. Well, the GI Bill would not pay for trade schools back when I got out. So I ended up having to get a Sally Mae and not use my GI Bill. Now the schools are great. They have GI funding and all that good stuff. And they're really trying to help out the soldiers and all the military members. But it's I went to Tulsa Welding School back in 2000. Being that I just got out of the military, the instructors seemed to really take a liking to me and help me out more than I'd say some of the other students. So I was really fortunate for that. I had a little bit of age on me compared to the kids, you know, fresh out of high school going, and that really helped me out a little bit, being that I was a veteran and got a little bit of extra support, you know. Did you go to trade school?
I went through school back in high school, so I kind of lucked out. Like I went through. When I was in high school, we had the option to take our electives at the vocational school. So you could pick like culinary arts, HVAC, you could do industrial electrical, small gas engines, welding, cosmetology. Like they had a bunch of different stuff. So I picked welding, did that for about 2 years. And when I lucked out, when I enlisted, I was actually going to go Air Force because we had Air Force ROTC at my school. And my buddies ended up talking to me. They're like, hey, man, you know, we're talking to this Marine Corps recruiter. And I was like, oh, what's that all about? Like, I didn't know anything about it. You know, I was just young, dumb, naive. The only thing I knew was, like, Army and Air Force because I grew up watching, like, Rambo and Missing in Action and all that stuff and Top Gun, which Top Gun was Navy. But, you know, you never really think about that when you're 5 or 6. But, yeah, I ended up, you know, enlisting in the Marine Corps. Luckily enough, my recruiter was like, you know, I'll guarantee you 1 of 2 jobs. And I was like, okay, welder or combat engineer. So I lucked out and got to go as a welder. So it worked out pretty good. So when I got out, I had a transferable skill set. But I know, like, I was in different platoons with, you know, with other guys that, like, you really don't, unless you're going to get into, like, special security details or, you know, you're going to get into, like, some of the black ops stuff when you get out. There, you know, once you go infantry or special forces, you really don't have a whole lot of transferable skills to a civilian job.
That's true.
There's some stuff. I mean, like professionalism, you know, being on time. You got like all the work ethic stuff down, but, you know, logistics and planning and missions and operations. I mean, you have all that, but it's like you really can't get a job in the civilian sector doing what you were doing in the military.
I'm kind of bothered. I went to the Marine recruiter first, and I was a really small Japanese, you know, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid whenever I went there, and he looked at me. And he was a rock. This guy was a monster. And he looked at me. He's like, son, I'll just be honest with you. I don't think you're going to make it. And he said, you might want to try the Army. And I was like, well, for some reason, the Army was the last place I wanted to go. So I went right next door to the Navy recruiter. They asked me a bunch of questions. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I really don't want to be stuck on a ship with minimal quarters and stuff. So I went over to the Army. And it was all down here from there. They were more than happy to take me.
Oh, yeah. No offense, but they'll take anybody.
Yeah. And I wish I would have went, you know, if I had went Marines and did something more hua, then I probably would have stayed in. But, you know, being kind of a pogue was not what I was really wanting to do.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing. I was on my second deployment over there. I was in Iraq, and I actually had my re-enlistment papers like in my hand. Everything was approved, man. I had all the signatures, all the boxes were checked. First sergeant signed off on it, and I was getting ready to go up to turn everything into the company gunny, because like when you're in the Marines, they have a hard time retaining people. So like a lot of people, they'll do their 4 years and they'll bounce. So they'll pretty much guarantee you anything within reason to re-enlist. So like I had jump school listed on there. I was going to be a welding instructor up in Aberdeen, Maryland. Like I had everything that I wanted was perfectly laid out and mapped. And the staff NCOs that I had, they like really put a bad taste in my mouth in the fact that we went out and did a bunch of planning and ran a bunch of ops. And like I was the NCOIC in charge of that, like this stuff that we were doing. And they had like this big formation and everything, and the award ceremony, and like all my staff NCOs, they got recognized and they got all the accolades. And like, I didn't care. Like, I was like, all right, whatever. Nobody paid attention to me. Okay, poor me. My thing was like that my Marines that went out there and, blood, sweat, tears, everything that we did, they didn't get recognized. They got like meritorious or like CERCOMs or whatever, certificate of commendation. Whereas all the staff NCOs, they got like medals and ribbons for doing all this stuff. And I was like, you jackasses never even left the freaking dispatch hut. You were sitting, you're sitting here, watching your freaking laptop, watching reruns of The Shield, slamming bottles of water and Red Bull while we were out there busting our ass sweating. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to be that when I get out. And not don't get me wrong, the military is great, and I just kind of had my last tour. I just kind of had like a bad platoon that I was with, and I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm out. But on the other hand, my little brother, he joined the Air Force, and I think right around year 10 or 11 of his enlistment, he's like, hey, I'm planning on getting out, moving back down to Florida, because he's stationed up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I told him over the phone, I was like, dude, you're like 3/4, you're almost there. If you get out
on the
now,
downward slope.
Yeah, I was like, if you get out now and you come back to Florida, there's nothing here for you but other than an ass whooping. Stay in, get your 20, get your 20 and then get your security clearance again, because he's already got that. That's kind of like his big thing is like, I got security clearance. I can go work for these different contractors down there in Florida. And I was like, no. Stay in, get your 20, get your top secret clearance reevaluated, readjusted, and renewed, and then get out. Then come down here as a retirement, because he went in at 18, so he's going to get out at 38. Yeah. So you can come down here and put in another 20, boom. By the time you're ready for like regular retirement, you're drawn off 2 government pensions.
That's right.
Yeah. I was like, don't be stupid. Stay in.
My little brother followed my footsteps too, but he joined the Navy first as a corpsman, and then he was in the Marine Fleet Force chasing pirates all over the place, and then he got out and joined the National Guard and ended up getting the SF deal, and he rocked it out for I think 11 years before he got out, and he was AGR, and Obama administration took the funding from his unit, so they took his AGR slot away, and next thing you know, he's like, you know what, I'm done with it. But he made us all proud. He did several tours.
Yeah. So when you came back and you got into Tulsa, like how long was their class?
So I think it was 10 months back then. It was a long time. I remember this year. I think it was close to 10 months. I can't really be sure. It's 22 years ago.
That was kind of before they franchised too. So I think it was just like that one school in Tulsa, Oklahoma that they kind of opened up.
Yeah, it was on 11th Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was pretty neat. Yeah, I went up there with 2 of my friends from Arkansas. They actually came to his house to do the recruiting. He invited me over to look at all the stuff that they were doing. Really, he didn't want to go to Oklahoma by himself, and he swindled me and another buddy, Bo, into going with him. And out of us 3, I'm the only one that kept with it, you know.
So what would you get into once you got out of Tulsa? Did they help you with like job placement, or what type of industry did you break out in?
Yeah, so luckily, when I broke out, I got a job building the power plant outside of Coweta, Oklahoma for Duke Floor Daniel. So I really got fortunate and busted out with a really good job. It was new construction. There was some really good old timers there that were wanting to kind of help me, but not really. They really want me to earn it, but they were just really mean, to be honest with you. I had some bad habits, and they weren't real friendly about helping me break these bad habits, but they definitely helped me break these bad habits. I used to get my hood real close to my weld, And I remember being on I think it was an 8-inch 2G weld, and I had my head up real close to it, and just all of a sudden in the middle of my weld, my head gets jerked back. And I was like, what in the hell? He's like, get your hood away from that puddle so you can see your rod angle, you know? And ever since then, I don't get my hood close to there. I learned my lesson real quick because he was eye hawking me, trying to make sure I wasn't going to keep having that bad habit of getting real close to the weld. So I had a lot of help out there. I learned a lot of construction lingo and learned a lot of Spanish because I had two Hispanic fitters. It was definitely a learning curve at first because they supposedly didn't speak very good English. I think they did, but
Yep.
but they supposedly didn't speak very good English, and so I learned a lot of I guess slang Spanish, calling me an asshole and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but I got all the help that I could, and I got really close to the end of that job and got laid off, and then I went to another Fluor job in Arkansas, which was really great because it was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, at the convention center. And they were doing an add-on down there. So I got to sit there in the home state for a while. And then after that, I had saved up quite a bit of money. I was young. And so I went back up to Greer's Ferry, Arkansas, which is I've got a cabin up there. So I stayed up there for a little while and kind of just hit some repair work until my money started running low. And then I decided to learn how to weld downhill. And I had a couple buddies come down and show me how to run that hippie rod. After that, I started working prefab for GWI, and that was pretty cool. Sitting there in a rollout wheel, getting slick. You know, I highly recommend all my students, if they get the opportunity to go to a fab shop, to go, even though, you know, you might not get per diem or whatever. You really learn to hone in your skill when you're sitting there on that rollout wheel. And then you can just lock it down and start doing position welds and really testing yourself. That's what I did. And I really didn't care for the downhill, but it paid real good. I didn't like getting burned up all the time. So as soon as that kind of panned out for me, I jumped into rig repair, chasing derricks, drilling rigs. And that was intense. You know, everything from putting on a wellhead to just fixing a handrail. You know, I really enjoyed all that because had a minimum, and sometimes I'd just go out there and put a little 1-inch stitch on a handrail and get a 3-hour minimum and just go hit the next one up. So that was a lot of fun. When that Fayetteville shale hit Arkansas, that whole state got rich. You know, it was a good time. So I did that for several years, and then
it's pretty cool watching, like, you know, like you're talking about doing oil derricks and stuff, watching the Roughnecks go out there and work. The way that they, like, I don't know that whole system or the lingo and everything, but like they'll throw that chain around that piece of pipe and pick it up and move it and set it and then pull it and yank it, and like they've got it down to a sit. And it's like, man, if my big ass was in there, I'd be getting like knocked every which way but loose because I mean they've got so much different equipment, like on springs and hydraulics, just swinging this way and that way, and it's like, damn, how do you keep up? And the hours that they're working and putting in, just that repetition of work, you know, tapping those different heads, it's like, holy shit, like where do you go to learn that? You know,
I know it's crazy. You know, and like, I thought it was intimidating on my first job whenever I pulled up to that plant and I saw how big it was and everything going on and how many people were just running around here working their ass off. And I was like, oh my God. The first thing I'd said was, I looked at the guy next to me. I was like, I think I'm out of my league. You know, I don't think I fit in here. This is a little bit more than I think I can chew. And the oilfield derricks was the same way. You know, I went out there, and it's, of course, not as many people, it's small crews, but I mean, everybody knew their job. Everybody was running and doing exactly what needed to be done at the exact right time. And it was just so efficient, seeing how everything was going and how safe they tried to make everything. I mean, of course, it's not a safe job, but they really did try to make sure everything was as safe as it could possibly be. And also, being that I was out there and I was on a clock, they really made sure that I was taken care of. So that was always really nice too. I learned real quick that when you're working with derricks, that you got to treat them boys good. So it wasn't nothing for me to stop at McDonald's and grab $20 worth of double cheeseburgers and fill my cooler up with soda pops and Gatorades. And when I pull up there, just start handing them out. And by the time I got out of my truck, they'd already have my leads run out for me, my cutting torch, everything where it needed to be. You know, I took care of them and they took care of me. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I didn't care putting on weld heads because it was just anytime I'm under pressure like that, I know what I'm doing, but I always like second guess myself. I'm like, man, is that good enough? Should I put another pass on that? And I'm always double checking myself, and it makes me a little slow sometimes, but everything seemed to always work out. I always had good people around me. Iron sharpens iron. That's kind of one of my mottos, try to stick around the sharp people and let them sharpen you up too.
Yeah. That's one of the things I kind of found beneficial and, like understanding how much faith and trust you can put in some of your welds. Cause I had the same problem for a while. It's like, should that weld be a little bit bigger? Because like a lot of times you're not working off prints and nobody's around for guidance. And you're like, what do I do? Do I put more weld on there? Is that going to be clean enough? Is it going to hold? So you start second guessing yourself. It wasn't until I got into weld instruction and started doing like macro etches and bend tests, and you're like, damn, this stuff's like pretty damn solid. Like even if you screw it up, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I think one bead could have held a lot of that stuff.
Exactly.
I put 6 on it.
Like maybe I put too much weld on.
I know I've done that many times just to be safe.
Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put a little bit more on.
Yeah, if it's a flange, it's okay. It'll hold it.
Yeah.
Just put on an extra pass. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I like the oil field derricks. I like chasing that. I like the long hours, on call 24 hours a day, and I'll be at one rig and get a phone call. Hey, I need you on this one on this location at this time. And, I'd have just enough time to leave this one and go to that one. Sometimes I'd be gone, 36 hours. I think it was the longest stretch I ever had, on one pad. That was pretty rough. They'd lost a bit off in the hole, and I had to modify the bit retrieval tool. And at the end of the day, they were putting the tool on backwards the whole time. And the tool pusher came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Saki, I need a favor. I need you to go cut the gusset off of this and then re-weld it back on exactly where it was, so we could say that it was a problem." And then we were fishing for it upside down. And I was like, "Are you serious? How do you even do that?" He's like, "I don't know."
Don't ask me questions. Just do me this favor, bud.
I cut the gusset off, weld it right back on, and in the exact same spot with the same amount of weld. And they stuck it down in the hole. First grab, they pulled it back out, and they're like, "All right, you can go." I said, "Well, you're signing this 36-hour ticket." He's like, "I'll sign it with pleasure."
Sign whatever you need, bud.
Yeah. So, I really enjoyed the oil field play in Arkansas, especially since I was at home. I might be gone for 4 or 5 days, but I always got to go back home at the end, and that always meant something to me. I love Arkansas. I really miss the state, even though Wyoming is absolutely beautiful. There's some really amazing spots out here in Wyoming right now. It's everything's turning green because we get a lot of snow and rain. It's looking really nice.
Yeah, I was hoping to get out there to the competition. You guys just had last Monday?
Saturday.
Yeah. No, it looked like a lot of fun. I want to get out there, but like I'd already done the KWI thing. I'm traveling up to Stephanie's open house on the 21st. And I've got stuff going on down in Houston, Texas in July. Like I've got just so much planned out. I've got to kind of space everything so I can try and hit it. But I wanted to go out there and see you and Tyler and Danny and kind of check out what that whole setup and operation looks like.
I'd be excited to go see Stephanie's new school. That thing looks amazing.
It looks badass.
I love
just the paint job looks like it's like neon lights, but it's not. It's like paint. It's
definitely
got
her personality all over it.
She's got like all those elaborate artists and stuff in her area, and she basically kind of gave them, I want it to be a destination, not just like a regular welding school. And they kind of like cut loose, and they're like, okay, like 1980s Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses type theme. Boom, here you go, bam. So I can't wait to see it in person.
Yeah, it's gonna be neat. I wish I could make it up there to do something like that. But yeah, when she came down for the competition, we were really happy to see Stephanie Hoffman, and I think Stephanie came. Harley, the Blue Collar Blondie, All Outlaw, Amplified TIG rigs. Man, I don't want to miss anybody. Blue
John
Demon
King was up there.
Yeah, John King was up there.
Yeah, Travis with Blue Demon and Weld Porn. He's a cool dude, man. Travis is a trip. I got to get him on the podcast. But like I told him, I was like, we We've got to plan that one out, man, because he's like a wild card.
Oh yeah. You never know what's going to come out of that Marine's mouth.
Yeah, I got to hang out with him at KWI, and everybody else was like their jaws dropping, and I was like, that's just like standard issue Marine right there. I'm a lot more reserved, but he was like a radio guy, and he hung out with a grunt unit, so he's wide open.
Yeah, wide open. Yeah, we went out and shot. Ismail and Travis called me when they got here, like, hey man, we want to go shoot some guns. I'm like, man, ammo's expensive, but I love y'all, so we'll go. And I just bought 1,000 rounds of blackout, so I took them out there with my blackout pistol, and it's just watching them mag dump. I'm like, there's $30, there's $60, there's $90. I'm like, y'all stop shooting.
It's $1 a round. You're gonna have to leave a deposit.
Yeah, and they're like, well, let me shoot your Glock now, and I'm like, man, 9mm rounds are hard to find too. Sitting there, I have a 34 round clip in it, and just bam, 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 bam. I'm like, okay, that made me sick. They're like, you're not gonna shoot? I'm like, no, I'm good. I know how my guns shoot. I'm good.
Yep. Nope, I shot last year when ammo was on sale at Rural King.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they had a good time. I was glad to take them out. It's always a good time hanging out with, how that crew is. Yeah. Everybody's really awesome, and it's really good to see Jesus come down and his wife. Just a really good time. Yeah, a bunch of good people came.
They're a great group of people. That's why I can't wait to get back to Houston. I think I'll be there like August 23rd through the 25th for the AWS is putting on a welding summit down there in Houston. So it's like a 2-day conference, but they've got some other stuff that's going on. So if you're not there to see the speakers, Careers and Welding Trailer is going to be out there. They got a bunch of other stuff going on, but they invited me to come out, and I'm probably going to do some podcasts, but I want to check. I love going to Houston. It's just a good time. Like that whole crew gets together, and it's like there's never a dull moment.
Oh, I know. That's right. And you said that's in June?
I'm sorry, August 23rd through the 25th.
Okay.
24th to the 25th.
Got the Instructors Institute and Leadership Symposium.
Yeah, that's in July.
In July, yeah. Because I remember you telling me you were going to be there, so I was excited to see you. I'm fortunate that I'm going to get to go this year and to the Instructors Institute and possibly the Leadership Symposium. I'm still waiting on confirmation on that.
You're going to have a blast at the Instructors Institute. That is, it is such an awesome event, that entire week. Bring you a case of Red Bull because it's like a nonstop action-packed fun event. I mean, there's like no other way to put it. And the cool thing is like the Instructors Institute, like I did the Instructors Institute and the Leadership Symposium. As an instructor, like I just found so much value in the Instructors Institute. It's taught by Dr. Rick Palanin. I can't remember the other guy's name. I haven't seen him since then. But Dr. Rick Palanin's just like dangerously smart when it comes to welding. He's got like a PhD. Mm-hmm. Well, he's the president of AWS right now, if that tells you anything. So I'm sure I would imagine he would still be teaching that class just because he has just as much fun as the students that come in. But there's like 22 people, one from each district, and then I think they bring in one from Mexico and Canada. I don't know if anybody, cool. The year that I went, nobody from Mexico came, but we had a guy from Canada come in. So I think we had 23. But it was a really cool event. I mean, that's where I met Stephanie Hoffman and my buddy Jeremy and Travis Jumper and Hugo, and we still connect. We try to get together whenever we can. Usually it's every other fab tech. We all get to meet up. But that's the coolest part about it is you're going to network with so many different people, and your instructors network is just going to, just spread far and wide all the way across the country. And it's really cool. So get a contact sheet going when you guys get there, get each other's names, numbers, emails and all that stuff, and just stay in contact and keep up with one another.
Yeah. I'm really excited to, I love being a welding instructor. I've been teaching for almost 4 years now. I started off in the University of Arkansas, Pulaski Tech as adjunct. I've been running my rig all day. So after the oil field, I got into rig repair and weld repair especially. And I noticed that anytime I would need some help, I'd reach out to people. Hey man, you got anybody that can help me out? And they're like, yeah. And when I'd meet them, like, yeah, I'm a certified welder. And I hate hearing that,
yep.
And I was like, all right, well, if you're certified, let me go ahead. I'll have you run this. Like I do a chiller change out or something. I'll be running some pipe and I'm just watching like, dude, what are you certified in? I mean, are you certified in stick welding or MIG or what? And he's like, yeah, I'm certified in stick. And I just realized that at that point I knew that certification was a complete joke.
It was at that moment Saki realized he fucked up.
Yeah. Hey, I'll just have you use my grinder today, and I'm going to go ahead and do all the welds that I wasn't planning on doing. So I decided to go to the Pulaski Tech and see if they needed any help. And I wasn't even looking for a job. I was just wanting to volunteer, and they're like, actually, we need an instructor for night shift. And I was like, okay, college don't pay much for adjunct, your hours are minimal. And it was just, it was really, the pay was a joke for what they were wanting. And when I got in there and I started teaching, they had a really strict set curriculum that, in my opinion, will never train anybody to be a real welder. You don't need to know all the metallurgy stuff to go out and make $1. They should have been learning how to read a tape measure. And first off, that was the biggest thing. I had one helper that was counting the lines, and I'm like, do you not know fractions? He's like, oh, I know fractions. And I'm like, well, all of these are fractions in this inch, so I was having to show him that. But that college, it was just messed up, Jason. And I was really disappointed in that. So I kind of there was no supervision with me there. So I just kind of started doing my own thing and training real welding, they kind of slapped my hands a few times, but at the end of the day, my first semester there, I actually certified or had more students certified in my class than any class that they've had in years. And the head guy, I forget what his name was. That was Zach. He came up to me and he said, what are you doing? What are you doing different? I said, I'm teaching them to weld. I'm not in the classroom. All those hour you have us sitting in the classroom every day, I just took them right in the shop and showed them how to weld. And he's like, well, it seemed to work. He said, they passed all their written exams. And I said, yeah, because I'm telling them the written stuff while they're in the booth. You can kill two birds. So I was doing that, and I found that I really enjoyed, showing these kids how to weld. And then I got a phone call. I was on a job. I was redoing a hydraulic line for Metro Scrap in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I was covered in hydraulic fluid. It was gross. And I got a phone call saying, hey, we're having a free AWS lunch at Porky's Barbecue today. If you want to join, Jason. I said, sure. So I stopped by there, and I'm nasty. And I walk into Porky's Barbecue and attend the meeting and have me a lunch. And then as I was in there, I kept noticing a man kind of eyeballing me, not mean, but just looking over at me quite a bit. And he's wearing a Lincoln welding jacket and welding cap, and I could look at him and tell he was a good welder, and he just had that look about him. And after the meeting was over, he came up to me and goes, hi, my name is Josh Waymack. What's your name? And I said, Jason Sasaki. He's like, you're a real welder. And I said, yeah, no shit. And I said, you are too, right? He's like, yeah, I'm a real welder. And he said, I'm with Arkansas Elite Welding Academy. You heard of us? And I said, yeah, I've heard the name. And he's like, we're looking for an instructor. Do you want to come and test for us? We'd like to give you an opportunity, So I took him up on that a couple months later, whenever they were ready, because they were opening up a new facility, and went down there and tested. And then I really found my passion for teaching at Arkansas, bigger class, a curriculum that was designed to make badass welders, they hired me to help them develop their structural side of the program. Because it was a bunch of, pipe welders that they needed some help on the wire side. And I'm fluent, and I'm not good at anything, but I'm mediocre at everything, and right. So I was able to help them with the dual shield side, the MIG side, and the arc gouging, and get their curriculum, rocking and rolling with the help of, their team is amazing. So I was able to help them out on that curriculum, and I stayed there for 2.5 years. And that's when I met you. I was with them at FabTech 2019. And
yeah, I remember you guys had the restrictor, the boa constrictor. That thing was cool as shit, man.
Yeah, man. They're still rocking that.
It's like a limited access 6G 2-inch double extra heavy wall pipe test. Like
it was crazy.
Inside of a snake, literally. It's like a coiled up snake, and you got to figure out a way to get in there, because you can't go completely 6G all the way around, because now you've got that literal snake belly in your way.
Yeah, it spirals around it, so there's not one point on there that you can get comfortable. And you have to use that mini rig. So that was pretty neat. That was Josh Waymack, the vice president there, is a very creative man, and he was able to come up with some stuff. And Travis Falk, the director of safeties and stuff there, he came up with that Scorpion. I don't know if you saw that. Oh, it was pretty neat. Yeah, there's some great guys there, but they really helped me. Iron sharpens iron. While I was there, I was able to learn a lot of stuff that I didn't know, or different techniques, and I was able to help them out on a lot of stuff. And after we got done with the curriculum and stuff there, and things just kind of started getting a little complacent, and I ended up coming out here to help Tyler Sassy and Danny and Nathan Ponder over here at Western Welding Academy. This is another phenomenal school. They, I couldn't pick between the two of them. Of course they're different, but both schools create an amazing welder. But I'm really proud to be a part of the Western Welding team. And I'm on the first shift and the end of third shift. So Western Welding Academy is open 24/5. We got 3 shifts running 24 hours a day, from 6 to 2, from 2 to 10, and from 10 to 6.
Damn.
And it sounds rough, but we've got enough instructors to keep the ratio down low. Tyler and Danny and Nathan have recruited instructors from all over the nation, and we've got some kings in there welding. I'm really fortunate to be around them and getting to sharpen up my skills with them. Everybody has a complete different background, so you're really able to, hey Carl, whenever you're out doing this, how did this work for you? Or hey Whiskey, how did this work? And I really like asking a lot of questions, and they also like to return and ask a bunch of questions as well. And Western Welding Academy is just now 3 years old, so it's still young, but boy, it's grown, and we're at a point now to where we're not going to expand anymore, and we're just going to start building it up really good on the inside, which it's already great, but we're going to start building up on the inside. And this school is completely set up to be the absolute best school in the nation. They've got a machine shop that mills out coupons perfectly, which, I know these coupons aren't real in real life, but it gives the student the opportunity to, if they take the time to make the fit up right and not put high-low in it, they can have the exact same fit up on a perfectly milled coupon over and over and over, as many of them as they can weld out in a day, which promotes the most amount of hood time that you can get. All
right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by Everlast Welders. Are you looking for a solid MIG welder that's lightweight, compact, and portable? Look no further than the Everlast Cyclone 200E, priced at just $559. The 200E is dual voltage, has a new digital interface, and power set mode to help you get dialed up to weld in a snap. Check it out today at everlastwelders.com, and don't forget to use Arc Junkies in the comment section at checkout when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG Torch upgrade. We're also brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. Right now, Strong Hand Tools and Build Pro have an awesome deal for listeners of the Arc Junkies podcast. They have 9 new promotional deals going on for toolkits and welding tables. They're all 10% off with free shipping. It's a great time to clean out and update your workshop this spring, and Strong Hand Tools has got your back. Head on over to stronghandtools.com/promo to see what deals they have for you. Now let's get back into the show. That's the biggest thing. Like, I got a buddy down here. He's one of the instructors for, I think it's the 803 Pipe Fitters Union here in Orlando. And they just switched over a couple years ago to a Lincoln, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a plasma cutter to cut and bevel all their pipe. And
all right,
their thought process behind it was, our students are spending 80% of the time prepping and 20% of the time welding. So they're like really good at prepping the pipe, but they're not getting enough hood time. So I mean, that's the thing. Like, as much as I love for my students to go through and, cut up all the material and like bevel it and get everything just so, it's also good, they're spending a lot of time getting all that material prepped, where, they should be in the booth honing that craft, because that's like the hardest part. Like, I can show somebody to run a track torch or, a pipe cutter in like 5 minutes, but the welding part, like, you've got to start building that repetition, the muscle memory, like going through making mistakes, blowing out a root, experiencing arc blow. Like, you got to like go through that and kind of get really good at the welding aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was, exactly why Tyler and Danny and Nathan, decided to spend the money to get that machine that mills them. And it mills it in seconds. You get a pipe, cut it, stick it in there, hit the pedal, and within seconds it's popped out with a perfectly beveled piece. And it's, if a student starts to fall behind, it's really their fault, because we've got the staff, we've got the numbers of instructors, they've got the coupons, and I understand people learn at different speeds, but really that school is designed and allows you to have enough time to grow at your own pace. So usually what I've seen to find out is the student starts falling behind, I'll look to see how many pipes they're welding in a day, and most of the time it's a lack of work ethic, as opposed to a lack of skill. And that seems to be the biggest problem that I see with students, advancing right now, is the lack of work ethic. And that's just a generational thing, in my opinion, but yeah, it also, what's great about that, having those milled coupons, is it allows the instructors to weld a lot more often as well, because all of our booths aren't filled up. We just expanded the school, and I think we're up to 86 booths.
Holy shit.
Yeah, available. We only run, I think we've got 47 in first shift right now. So we keep the numbers low so we can still acquire the one-on-one time that's needed with these students. And I really respect that at that school, how they don't overload the instructors, which would create, a lack of one-on-one time.
Yeah, at that point you're cranking out a bad product. Your product is the students, and you kind of hanging your hat on being able to train them up and place them in industry. And if you can't get that one-on-one time, they'll complete the program, but they're not going to get placed in industry.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the difference between a college program and a trade school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not all colleges, but some colleges, they just, like the one I was at, it was, they just wanted to push the numbers through, and they wouldn't allow you to fail anybody. And it's like, I'm not trying to get participation awards here. I'm trying to
make
teach
welders.
These boys to make $1. Yeah. So yeah, I love how that is. And I've really got to hone in on some of the stuff that I haven't done in years because of these milled coupons. I'm able to stick a coupon in a booth and go run the route pass, and then go help students out for about 30, 45 minutes and run there, sling a hot pass in real quick. And they actually encourage the instructors, to stay on top of their game. You need to weld these. They periodically make us do weld tests. It's a really good setup at Western Welding Academy.
What's your student to instructor ratio?
So right now, on first shift, I think it's 10 or 11 to 1 right now.
That's like ideal right there.
Yeah, we were at 9 for a while, but being that school's ending, we're starting to get a lot of students rolling in.
Yeah, that and a lot of people are starting to travel now, because I know they were running, I think, 3. When I talked to Danny and Tyler on the podcast a while back, I think they were, prior to COVID, running 3 24-hour shift or 3 8-hour shifts for 24-hour day, and then they kind of backed off a little bit due to like travel restrictions and the whole pandemic and stuff. So I'm glad to see it's picking back up.
Oh yeah, it's picked back up, and they got a bunch of new instructors in, and they're all top notch, and it's a good time up there right now. And now it's summertime, coming here in Wyoming, and Gillette, Wyoming is it's in the prairies, but you can see the Bighorn Mountains. So, you can see the mountain range, and actually where Western Welding Academy School is probably one of the prettiest locations in Gillette. You got a nice backdrop of the buttes and stuff like that. Buttes are flat top mountains, in case people don't know. I didn't know what they were.
I didn't know either. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was today years old when I learned that.
Yeah. And I was wondering why they're like that. And then someone asked me on a tour once, they're like, I wonder why those are like that. I said, it's probably because the wind here blows so hard and so often that it blew all the soil off the top of these mountains, and it's just rock. So that's my guess. The wind shear made these things flat out here.
That makes sense. You get like wind going across the rock, and it's dragging sand across it, just knocking it flat.
Yeah, and I think they're neat because I'm not used to seeing them. Being from Arkansas, I'm used to the woods, the thickets, and out here it's prairie. And I'm actually right now I'm in my truck and I'm looking at a bunch of pronghorn, sitting in the prairie, and it's a good time out here. It's turning green and it's getting real pretty, and the crappie are starting to spawn up at Keyhole Lake up here pretty close. So this weekend. I think we might run out there and have us a good time. It's not cold anymore. That was what took some getting used to. Was Arkansas is such a humid and hot state. And the day I moved out here was October 15th last year. And I went from like 80 something degrees to 15 inches of snow as I pulled up in Gillette. And I was just like, oh my God, look at all this snow. I don't even know what to do. So it was a pain moving everything in with 15 inches of snow on the ground. But the winter wasn't too bad. We did have a couple weeks with some severe sub temperatures, but it's weird after you get kind of climatized to those, sub-zero temperatures. When it got to be 30 degrees, I was like, man, it's hot out here. I don't know what's going on. Everybody else would be freezing. I was like, man, I don't even need a hoodie right now.
Kind of nice.
Really
yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So I know you're kind of big into like artifact hunting and, because you talked about it when we were down there at Outlaw, like looking for arrowheads and flint and all that stuff. Have you had a chance to get out there and kind of check out the landscape, see if you could dig anything up?
No, so there are a lot of reservations out this way. This is the wild, wild west. So no, I haven't had the opportunity to go walk any creeks and stuff yet. I've been here all winter, and I'm not really used to being in the cold. So no, I haven't yet. But I have a student. We call him Bear. He's native, and he is from New Mexico, and I talked to him. I did the tour whenever he came up, him and his family. And I asked him, what his nationality was. And he told me, and I was like, I love arrowheads. I love artifacts. And I showed him some pictures, and I helped him out quite a bit since he's been at school, and he went back home, and I guess his sisters who came to the tour with him had talked to, so he's 100% native and part of the tribe. And when he came back, his sisters had went to the elders in the tribe and asked them to make me a gift. And so the elders made in the old way, made me an effigy, which is like a figure of an animal. And it's weird that I've been told that my spirit animal is a bear. Well, they made me an effigy of a bear and then napped an arrowhead and had it tied on the top with sinew. And what sinew is, in case people don't know, it's the strings of intestine or stuff like that that's been dried, and then they chew it up and then wrap it, and then when it dries, it tightens up and makes a really strong bond. So I have a bear effigy with a bird point on the top of it wrapped, and they had taken that up to the holy man and had him bless it before they came up here, and he presented it to me. It about made me cry. I was so excited to get that because
that's really cool.
I've always wanted to see a real effigy. I've seen them in my books and stuff like that, but I've never actually seen or touched one. And when he handed that, it was amazing. When I brought it home and I showed my wife, because we're both into we don't dig for arrowheads, but we definitely scrape the ground a little bit, and look down the lake. Because back where we're at from in Arkansas, the Trail of Tears ran through where we're at. So when the lake gets up and then it goes back down, you just walk the banks and you can find artifacts. And that's what our favorite pastime was. And when I handed her this effigy, chill bumps just went all over her arm. She's like, oh my gosh, do you see that? And I was like, yeah, you got chill bumps. She's like, I feel something in this. And I was like, well, don't take all the good luck out of it. Let's
this is mine.
This is mine. So it was really good. I was really a nice thing that a student's done. I've received some really amazing gifts like this right here. I know people can't see this, but you can, Jason. This is
dude, that's badass.
Yeah. So one
Tomahawk?
of my veterans, one of my veterans, he's Special Forces, Army Ranger, the whole nine. He ended up getting this made for me by Mark McCoon, the legendary bladesmith. It's been forged out of a World War II Army Jeep, and in the handle it says RLTW, Rangers Lead the Way. So he hooked that up, and I've received a lot of really cool gifts from some students. It makes me feel really good that someone would take the time to get me something. It makes me feel like I did my job, and so that's not one of the reasons I teach, but it's definitely a perk. I guess the reasons I teach would probably be a little bit more emotional than just receiving gifts,
Oh, definitely. No, that's one of the cool things about teaching is like, kind of giving back, being passionate about your trade, passing off that craft to the next generation that's coming through. And that's like one of the cool things that I find. It's like like you said earlier, like the pay sucks. The pay sucks on, like a huge level, especially as like a part-time adjunct, but the reward of passing on your craft to somebody else, watching them, take that information that you've given them and take that out in industry, and then they flourish, and then they come back, or you get a text, or you get an email, or at graduation, they give you like a really cool gift as like a token of appreciation because they know that you're 100% into what you're doing. That's like the coolest thing for me is sitting back, watching them grow, and like I was talking to Dusty James with Pacific Arc TIG Welding, and he's kind of like an online welding instructor with his course. But I was like, tell your students, and this is something that I want to have my instructor start doing, is say, tell your students, to hold on, let them run that first pass, the first weld that they do. Okay, we're going to shellac that. We're going to clean it up, shellac it, put it up on a shelf. And in 10 weeks, I'm going to show you exactly how far you've come. Because you've been in that booth where you've got that student, they're like, I can't do this. I'm just not getting it. I'm not cut out for this. And you're like, then you could pull something off the shelf and say, hey, look how far you've come in this past couple of weeks. Like, you can do this. Like, get out of your own head and just, focus on what we're doing here. Like, don't focus on all the times you screw up. Focus on everything you've learned from every time you've screwed up. And then you apply that to the next weld, and apply that to the next weld, and just keep pushing forward. You're going to get over this hump. And maybe you suck at this process, but when we get on to the next process, maybe you kick ass so much that you can fall back and do this process, and that's going to help you, throughout the program.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're being able to come to school and throw your pride out the window and just know you're going to trash welds. I tell them in safety meetings all the time. I'm like, look, trash your welds now and learn what you're doing wrong before you get out in the field and the weld is critical and money's on the line. You have the opportunity in school to just wreck your welds over and over and over again and learn what you're doing wrong. I keep telling them to throw your pride out the window. Don't care what anybody else is thinking about your welds right now, because this is the time for you to fail. Because when you get out in the field and the weld is critical and money's on the line, you make a mistake, it might be your last mistake at that job. So just really work hard in here to learn what not to do. And then also with the restrictors, I tell them all the time, get uncomfortable here so you're more comfortable in an uncomfortable situation out there. Today I was helping one student learn how to do the mirror weld simulator. And it'd been 6 months since I even attempted to run a mirror weld. I was trying to backfeed that root in the day, and it was going pretty good for the first like half inch, 3/4 of an inch. I got my tungsten a little bit close and I jammed that wire in. You know how it is on a back feed and using a mirror, and made a pretty bad spot in it. And all my students decided to kind of razz me a little bit. And I was like, guys, I'm not perfect. I'm just a welder like you guys are trying to be. And I haven't done it in 6 months. So now I'm definitely going to hit the booze and grab me some coupons and try to knock out about 3 of them the rest of the week and get my hand back on it. And then show these boys up. But yeah, I just want them to know that everybody messes up welds, and it's more important to mess them up now while they're in school and the material's free and already paid for by them, and they can just sit there and just learn their skill. And that's one thing whenever I'm teaching them also is I like to watch them weld. I know I can weld it, and I'll show them the first time, but after that, I really don't weld in their booth very much. I watch them weld, and then I critique them, because I know that everybody has their own style. Nobody's going to weld like Jason Sasaki. No one's going to weld like Jason Beckard. You gotta see how they weld and then help them adjust their bodies to weld the way they need to. And there's kind of a science to it. Everybody also learns different. They got like 5 different types of learning styles, and most of the students are either verbal or visual, and finding out the difference between which students like you to talk it to them and explain everything and draw it out with soapstone on the wall, or some people do a lot better whenever you actually grab their hand and let them feel the motions and the pressures, like if you're trying to, push a root in running downhill or something, it's hard to explain pressures to people. I've been noticing that lately. I'm like really grabbing their hand and putting their actual palm where the rod is, instead of having them hold the handle so they can actually feel the amount of pressure to push through. Yeah. It's one thing I started doing. It seems to really be helping out.
That's one thing I learned from my buddy, Ryan Eubank, is like, when he does a pipe demonstration, and I started doing this with my students for like open root, is he'll just take that 60-10 rod and say, okay, hold up your hand. And then he'll put the rod up against their hand and show them. He's like, this is the amount of pressure that I'm talking about. This is what it feels like. And they're like, oh, and then they get it. They kind of understand how much pressure to put. But I like the fact that you said that. Yeah, I like the fact that you were talking about, like, because that's the point that I tried to drive home is you're going to make mistakes. And school is the best place to do it because once you get out in industry, once you get out in the field, nobody's going to pay you to show up and practice. Like they're hiring you to come out there and do the job, not practice how to do it. So make mistakes here. That's what you're here for. This is why it's school. Screw things up, break stuff, not intentionally, but, tear things up. And that gives me an opportunity to show you how to fix it. But, make your mistakes here. And then once you get out in the field, you don't have to worry about it. And I like the fact that you're not too prideful to, tell the students, hey, yeah, I screwed up. And you know what? This week I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bust out 3 more tests on my own because I was just talking about that on an episode of Just the Tip Tuesday for people that want to get into welding instruction. Like before I go into teach a module, I brush up on it, because I may not have taught stick welding for 6 months or a year, depending on, where I'm at in the curriculum and which class is coming in. Like I may need to brush up on that. So a week before, I'm going to go bang out some tests. I'm going to go bang out some coupons, just to get that rhythm back in there. Cause if, like you said, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's a perishable skill. It's not like riding a bike. You can pick it up really quick. Once you throw a shit weld in there, you can say, oh yeah, okay, this was off. And then like, how to fix it, but like, you don't have that muscle memory is kind of lost in translation, especially when you're shifting from like stick welding, this month. And then now we're into solid wire MIG and then we switch into flux core and then, we get into TIG welding. You run all these different processes. Your body can't keep up with, what's that feel like, but if you're out there, burning rods all day or burning wire, you've got that technique, you've got that, everything's kind of built in and you're on autopilot, but like if you're switching from one process to the next, it's hard to keep up. You got to throw a shit weld in and say, okay, I know where I screwed up. And then bang, next thing you know, you're knocking them out.
And it's funny you mentioned that, like, whenever you and Austin were talking on a few episodes back, trying to mess up. I can't mess up purposely,
Let me show you how to create porosity. I got to turn the gas off to get it done,
Yeah, I can't even do it on purpose. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can long arc it and it won't do it. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I look like a jackass.
Yeah, you go find one of the students' welds and be like, yeah, this is what porosity.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. Here's how you get it. Here's how you avoid it.
Yeah, but the students are always trying to cut corners, and I keep trying to tell them, we're trying to give you a solid foundation and teach you the right way by the book on how to do things. Me and Colton Fowle were talking this morning. He's like, I can grab a welding rod and whip out one of these downhill welds and knock it out in 30 minutes, but I don't want to show them how to do that because I'm cutting corners, like I'm not grinding my root pass out. I can pass X-ray by not grinding my root pass out because I know what I'm doing. But I can't show them that, because it's just going to create bad habits, and I told my students this morning in the safety meeting, I said, guys, you're going to have a solid foundation when you leave this school, but you're going to learn more in 2 months out in the field with the solid foundation that you have than you are, and if you took another 6 months of school. I said, you'll learn different tricks and tips to go along with your solid foundation, so, but that's the most important thing that these trade schools do. There's a few trade schools that I would put my name out for, Scott Robbie's got a pretty good school, Arkansas, Western Welding, there's got some top-notch schools out there that really care about their product. I'm glad that we've got instructors that are willing to leave the field and come out there and show these kids, hey, this is the foundation that you need to start with, but you are going to excel really fast with this foundation, but you also get those students that are just lazy, and
you can't teach work ethic. I've tried.
Yeah.
You can't, I wish you can't want it for them. Cause I've tried that too. It's like, man, you've got so much potential, but you're really shitting the bed on this one, pal. Like I need you to show up every day on time and put in the work. And then I can help you do great things if you understood the potential that you have. But if you want to piss it away, it does, man. I think that's like the worst part about teaching is like you see a kid, a young man or a young woman that come through the program, and they got so much potential. They got that fire in their eyes, the first couple of weeks, and then like life happens, life gets in the way, and it's a lot of times it's just like petty shit. And, then they start losing focus. They start losing track. And it's like a relationship issue. And it's like, you know what? That person's not going to be with you, a couple years from now. So, like, get that out of your head. Let me teach you a skill set that's going to last a lifetime that nobody can take away from you. And, like, you can't get it in their head. It's like, let me help you. Let me show you the way.
Yeah, there's some student, that not all of them, of course, but, some of the ones that their families have been well off and they've kind of been given a lot of stuff throughout their life. Mm-hmm. They don't really take it as seriously as some others. One of the stories that a young man, I won't mention his name, but he'll know the story whenever I'm saying it. He's one of the biggest reasons I'm still teaching. He was literally dirt floor poor. Literally, his family had nothing, and he ended up winning a scholarship or getting a scholarship awarded to him. And he ended up getting to come to school for a pipe curriculum. And he graduated, I think, in October sometime. And he went out on his first job, and he came back after the hitch was over. And it was right before Christmas. And he came running up to me and gave me a big hug. And with trying not to tear up, I always do when I tell it, but he looked at me and he's like, this is the first year I could buy my mom a Christmas present. And man, it just warmed my whole soul, and that was probably the most emotional time I've ever had teaching, and experiences like that are definitely worth losing the money on the paychecks, like we were saying, we don't get paid much, but I get messages from parents, from students after they graduate, and that is worth more than the financial, abundance that I'm missing out on.
Yeah. You can always pick up side work to make up the difference.
Oh yeah, but you can't replace that feeling of knowing that you really helped save somebody and create a better life for them. I try to do that as often as I can. I like going to church. I'm a Christian. I ain't scared to admit it. The students know which church I go to. I don't ever take anybody. I don't go out with my students and stuff like that, but they definitely know which church I go to, and they know where I sit. And it always warms my heart whenever I got a big group of them sitting there next to me. Mm-hmm. It means I'm doing something more than just teaching them how to weld. I'm feeding their souls as well. And that means a lot to me. You
become a life changer.
Yeah, that's what we do, Jason. That's why you're into teaching. I guarantee it. You're not doing
that's
it for
exactly
the money.
Why.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I kind of poured it out on that episode I did a couple weeks ago. I was like, I could literally leave this job right now. It's the first job that I had teaching, and I was not making the money that I was promised. And my dumb ass, I was like, oh yeah, everything looks good, everything sounds good. I should have got it in writing. I didn't. And then, I paid for it, but it was like, I can't leave these students. I can't leave these young men and women that are depending on me to teach them this trade. I could leave at the drop of a hat. Like, I could literally leave right now and clock in over at the Ironworkers and go right back to work, like midday, no problem. But I didn't. I was like, I'm making an impact here, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed ironwork. I've got a sick sense of humor, but like, I really enjoyed like that physical labor and stuff. But it was like, I'm really making an impact here. They can always find somebody, to run that pass or drive that bolt or hang that iron. What I'm doing here, there's not a lot of people that are going to do this. And there's not. It's definitely rewarding in a, I don't know exactly how to describe it. It's definitely not a financial capacity, but it's definitely rewarding watching these people go off and make something of themselves. And, like the impact that you make, and you're, like I said in the episode, you're not just a welding instructor. You're a life changer. You're physically changing people's lives for the better. And there's no better feeling in the world than giving back.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate that a lot of my old students reach out to me and be like, hey, I'm on this job and they're needing 3 combo welders. And I'm able to pass that on, like, all right, well, send me a recruiter's number. And I'm been very fortunate that I'm getting all these contacts from my old students that are feeding them to me. And I'm able to put new students in. I tell them while they're in school, pay it forward, guys. When you get out there and you hear something, holler at me so I can give the next class some jobs, just like I'm going to give you. That's always a good thing. And, if I wasn't doing my job as a decent instructor, then they wouldn't reach out to me.
Yeah,
so,
your phone wouldn't be ringing.
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't even message me back. So I'm fortunate. I think I got 6 people a job within the last 3 days. So that's their first jobs, getting out there and busting out and traveling the U.S. And I will say something that bothers me though is whenever I have a job that's like 30 and 100, and the student says that's not enough.
Yeah, a student says
That
it's not enough.
that bothers me to the core. I'm like, you know what? I probably would have took that job, and I've been welding for a long time,
Mhm.
and for you to turn that down because you're thinking you're going to run your welding rig right out of school, you're making a mistake.
Yeah, cool story. Mom and dad bought you a truck and a welder. You got your little pancake hood and everything, little buddy. But
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck breaking out.
I wish every one of my students would listen to me and go straight into the plants and refineries, because when the gas and oil prices turn wrong, if they only know how to weld downhill, they're not going to be working. But if they go in the plants and refineries and hit that for a solid year and develop that muscle memory, they'll never not be within a job. They could, I wish a lot of them would listen to me, but some of them are lucky. They've got some contacts and bust out. And, but yeah, I wish all of them would just kind of follow the plant life for a little bit, but hey, to each their own. If they go and succeed, I'm happy for them. That's all that matters in the end. If they're happy,
Right. But the teaching welding isn't the only way you're kind of giving back to the welding community, though, because I know you're also part of the Hooded Heroes Foundation. So how'd you end up linking up with them?
So I was talking to Joey Crusoe. He's the man that came up with the idea of the Hooded Heroes. So he's teaching at a school, and he noticed that some of the unfortunate students were having a hard time getting decent PPE. And so he decided to reach out to some other welders that, might have a story behind themselves. I was an opiate addict and an alcoholic for many years while I was in the field. And that's one thing that kind of inspired me to try to start helping people, maybe not so much as a teaching welding, but before that, I just wanted to start like sponsoring people, helping people whenever I decided to change my life around. But Joey had a similar story to me, and he started reaching out to some people that he thought might be interested in not giving people a handout, but a hand up. Mm-hmm. No one needs a handout. People need to be grabbed by the hand and helped up sometimes, so that's what Joey's idea was. And him and his wife decided to put together the Hooded Heroes Foundation, and it's a nonprofit. We are 501c nonprofit approved. We are steadily looking for donations. That you can find the Hooded Heroes on the Hooded Heroes, hoodedheroes.org, and there's a donation tab on there. We accept gently used PPE and also new equipment and or money. And we're also always looking for students that are needing some help, some financial obstacles. These are difficult times right now, especially with the inflation and everything going on. So I guarantee there's some students out there that don't have the stuff that they need to be safe. And I've had many accidents in my 22 years of welding, and a lot of it was because I wasn't wearing my PPE voluntarily. And I just, I would love to be able to help out with making sure students can get the equipment that they need. And the Hooded Heroes Foundation it just started up this last year, and we're really excited to see that we're legit and nonprofit organization now. So if anybody has the means to help out right now with either equipment or donations, or if you need any help, just look on thehoodedheroes.org and check out the page.
Well, awesome. And then where can people find you at?
People can find me on Instagram and TikTok. It's Sensei Saki. Saki is spelled Saki. And I mainly on my Instagram and TikTok, I'm just really showcasing my students. It's not much personal stuff on there. There's a couple personal things, but most of the time I'm putting on watching my students do bend test, nick break test, watching them pass, watching them fail. or maybe just showing a few tips and tricks here and there. But if anybody ever has any questions, I always answer every message that I get. It doesn't matter who it's from, as long as it's appropriate.
Yeah.
But I will answer any question. If I don't have a clue who you are, but you're out somewhere and you're taking a weld test and you don't know that machine, and take a picture of it, send it to me on my Instagram. I'll look at it and be like, hey, this is what this machine does, I think. And, might try this right here, or, any kind of question. Hey, I'm having a hard time with this process of welding. You have any tips? I like doing that. I'm always there for anybody on any kind of information. And I'll probably follow you back. I'm not really into how many followers I have and all that stuff. I just want to help out as much as I can. My occupational lifetime goal is for one day a scholarship to be named after me. I want to help out enough that even if it's only a $200 scholarship, a Sasaki scholarship for welding is what my goal is. I don't care what organization does it. I want to make a change enough that people will recognize it, and I can still make a change when I'm gone.
That's a cool aspiration.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's one of the cool things about like the welding community is there's so many people out there that are, kind of in that same situation. Like, hey, if you can't figure it out, send me a picture, send me a video. Like I've helped, a couple people trying to go through, whatever process they're going through. I had one dude, Mike Wheatley, reached out to me again. This guy was like following me on, like my days with weld.com, and then like transferred over. He's been listening to the podcast, and like he just started out welding a couple years ago, and I was giving him some information and stuff. And now he's doing shit that like I can't do. Like he sent me a message right before we got on. What he's doing schedule 80, 22 inch by 1 inch GTAW root, hot and 2 fills to qualify on E100 S6. Like this, he's doing stuff that I've never done. And it's just really cool to watch his progression, and just a couple messages back and forth, man. They're like, hey, watch your work angle. I set my machine here. This is the angle that I use. And now he's cranking out shit that I'm not even capable of right now. So it's really cool to watch these people, grow through different conversations on social media. Like I've never met the dude a day in my life. And I'm sure you've got very similar stories, but that's the cool thing about the welding community is everybody's so willing to help. It's a complete generational shift from, when you and I got in the industry and like nobody wanted to show us anything. And now it's this generation that we're currently in, we want to show the next generation everything. It's like, hey, don't hit the same pitfalls I did. Like, here's how you can avoid this. Here's one thing that I learned to, speed up this process, or, you can cut this corner and kind of get away with it. Like just showing them little tricks of the trade to get through and make them better, and we don't see it as competition. We see that as a support system. So I think it's just really cool the way that the whole welding community operates online for the most part, except for Facebook. Yeah. I'll go on the record. Like, stay out of there.
Yeah.
We must not go there,
Facebook
Simba.
In a while. It is amazing. There's the welding community on Instagram. I don't know much about TikTok. I just put videos on, but the Instagram community, as far as welders go, is completely amazing. People that you would really consider famous, will still message you back, be like, hey, try doing this. It's like, wow. I was amazed whenever I met you at FabTech. It's like I was at the AWS welding competition. I was one of the last people in that contest, and in front of me was like Abraham Madrano, and then Scott Robbie, and then Bob Moffitt. And I was just looking at all these people. I was like, oh my God, all these people I've been watching welding and all this stuff. And then I'll never forget it. Abraham turned around. He's like, what's up, Saki? I was like, yeah. Hey, how do you know my name? He's like, oh, I actually, follow you in your school. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And it was funny, he's very modest, but he was like, hope you brought your A game. And I was like, yeah, I hope I did too. And then I ended up placing 4th,
Dude, he is like, very, very modest, very humble, very quiet, soft-spoken, but damn, he is a kick-ass welder. He showed me some cool stuff. Man. We did a video with him over at South Coast a while back, and I was like, damn, it makes so much sense the way he was showing me how to do some stuff, because he's not a huge fan of gas shielded flux core, because I guess he did that with his dad for a long time, and that's the one process he hates, but he's so damn good at it. And he was showing me some cool tricks that now I can pass that information off to my students. But you talk to him, you're like, damn, that's an awesome weld. He's like, yeah, it's okay. It's like,
okay.
He's like, it's okay. You know, this isn't really my favorite process. So I'm like, dude, that's like legit, like textbook perfect. He's like, it's okay. Yeah. He's like,
you got to tack the weld on so it don't fall off.
Yeah. He's like, like super humble. He's such a cool dude. But I imagine you're going to Fab Tech this year, right?
If I'm able to, so, you know, I play a big part at the school. And man, it just all really depends on my student. Well, this year's Atlanta, right? Yeah. This year's Atlanta. I like the Chicago venue. I haven't been to the Atlanta one yet. I don't know. I would like to say I would make it there, Jason. If I do, you know, I'm definitely gonna come up there and swing by to you.
Well, I heard that they may be canceling, and I don't know if I can say this. I've heard that Fab Tech may be canceling Atlanta for future events and possibly moving to Orlando.
Oh, wow.
Which I think
so
that
cool.
would be freaking badass, because then, you know, like I could just drive over to Fab Tech every day. I think that would be freaking awesome. So hopefully that comes true.
I would much rather go to Florida than Atlanta. Nothing wrong with Atlanta people. I love Georgia, you know, but
yeah, but your traffic needs some work.
Yes, it does. Now, I went to basic in Anniston, Alabama, and it was just about the same type of humidity that Georgia has, and I don't care if it's November or not. It's still going to be hot out there. So
well, I guess we'll link up over there at the Instructors Institute in July.
For sure, yeah, I can't wait. I still don't really know exactly what we're all going to do out there. All I know is that, you know, Stephanie Hoffman is the one that pushed me towards that. She said it would definitely help me further my career. Yeah. Not just as a welder, but, you know, in the industry, period. And she has always given me the best advice. I have so much respect for Stephanie Hoffman. I really look up to her as a person. She's always given me really sound advice. So I really don't know what to expect at the Instructors Institute. I don't know what I'm going to be taught, but I know it's going to be worth my time, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. That's for sure. Yeah, no, it's going to be an awesome time. I can guarantee it. So you've been there more than once? No, I've been there once, and that's all it took. I'm going back this year as a presenter. So I guess I'm presenter Monday morning, day 1, hour 1. I'll be presenting in front of you guys. Hey, outstanding. Well, I'll be looking forward to getting up there and shaking your hand again, brother. Well, definitely, man. Thanks again for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time, sharing your experience, kind of providing some insight from an instructor's point of view. And once again, thank you for your service. Cool. Or raw. Raw. Yeah, there we go. All right, brother. Well, hey, God bless you, man. And thank you for having me on your show, man. I've really enjoyed it, and able to push up some good schools and let you know what I've got going on. So thank you. Anytime, man. Till we meet again. Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. Tune in this Tuesday for a new edition of Just the Tip Tuesday, and be sure to check out the Arc Junkies website, arcjunkies.com, to stream all past and present episodes, pick up show merchandise like hats, t-shirts, and long sleeves. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.